Billion, trillion, million, billion, trillions of orbiting snowballs, orbiting snowballs, orbiting snowballs. A flat fact. A flat fact.
The realm. Do you know what the realm is? A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Today I have some very interesting construction photos. The building in question is the National Library of Brazil, located in Rio de Janeiro. Styled eclectically in neoclassical and Art Nouveau. But first, mud flood. We've seen many buildings that the bottom floors are covered over by dirt, all over Earth. What piques my curiosity is that whatever caused this great worldwide flood that covered 19th century buildings is not recorded. Yet we do have one major flood event recorded worldwide in legends, the Great Deluge, Noah's Flood. Yet evidence is exponentially growing daily of this 19th century mud flood. So exactly how old are some of these buildings? It is common knowledge that stone cannot be dated. These old constructions were built to last, built by the masters and apprentices of the guilds, the old ways and days. Could the mud flood be the worldwide deluge of legend, Noah's flood of Genesis, which I presume I'm not the only one with this thought? Is the water still going down? And that's why measurements based on height above sea level are still used. The water is still receding. Perhaps pre-flood Noah was a gentleman who wore a suit and not the patriarch in robes as we have seen his story depicted by paintings, images and movies. In the case of the National Library of Brazil, this building was purpose-built to be in this architectural style. A beautiful building that has the appearance of being of the old guilds. You could see a similar building in Europe or Britain and expect an age of hundreds of years. A beautiful building that looks like it has mud flood evidence. Covered ground floor, giant entrances and floor heights. The National Library of Brazil is a building with an entire steel frame construction. When I think early steel frame construction, the early high-rise buildings come to mind. The Chicago Home Insurance Building, constructed in 1883, being the first steel frame high-rise to be constructed in America, and also in Chicago. The Rand McNally Building, another steel frame building which was built in 1889, and then 22 years later in 1911 they pulled down this 10-story steel frame building. Very curious. A little side note, we find the same curiousness of demolition in Australia. Standing at a majestic 12 stories high, the APA building, or the Australia building, lays claim to Australia's first high-rise. The building was constructed in the city of Melbourne in 1889 and was amongst the tallest buildings in the world when completed. Wikipedia states that aside from the APA building, a total of 11 skyscrapers were located in the Melbourne city centre during this period, including the Finks building and the Prells building. Many of the high-rises of this era were constructed in a Victorian or Queen Anne architecture. None of them, however, were preserved, and most of these buildings were torn down between the 1960s and early 1970s. The National Library of Brazil is a very strong steel constructed building. As the photos follow, I will read what I found out about the history of the library, which I also found to be a little odd. The Encyclopaedia Britannica online states the date for the establishment of the library being the year 1810 with 60,000 books, and now the library holds millions of books and documents. When I was younger, so much younger than today, the encyclopedias were books of authority. If it was in the encyclopedia, it just had to be true. Upon reading the blurb in the encyclopedia, you may assume that the building was built in 1810, which is why I dug further, as I have construction photos of this building, and the earliest ever surviving photograph from a camera is determined to be around 1826. so obviously I found a problem with the date cited in the Encyclopedic Book of Authority. Wikipedia concurs the date 1810, but this is for the establishment of the library itself, not the building. In 1858, the entire library collection was transferred to another building in Lapis Square, and as the library's collection continued to grow, a new building was needed that would be purpose-built to allow for the growth of the library in the future. This new building is still the current location of the National Library. The architect is unknown, which is curious, but the building project is signed by military engineer Susa Agar, and its cornerstone was launched or laid on the 15th of August 1905, and the inauguration took place on the 29th of October 1910. The photographs themselves are dated anno 1911. I wonder how many more buildings like the National Library of Brazil are later still constructed copies of the older style. If you spot anything interesting in these construction photos, please let me know. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Until next time, much love to you all.